Hello there, and welcome to today's webinar, The Last Mile Challenge, Here We Go Pro in Action. My name is Shaun Baker, and I'm an account manager and licensing specialist in the Grey Matter mapping team. Grey Matter is a cloud solution and service provider, and we have over 40 years of experience. Our specialist mapping team has expertise in helping customers with their fleet logistics, last mile delivery, and GIS data applications, and more. As a proud global distribution partner for Here Technologies, we offer reliable and comprehensive advice on mapping services, empowering hundreds of our clients and businesses worldwide. We help our clients navigate the Here product landscape, choosing what's best for them, helping to maximize investments and making the most of their own location data. And today we have an exciting webinar for you, presented by Senior Product Manager Andrea Rossi from Here Technologies.
Hello, and nice to meet you.
Thanks, Andrea. So before we begin, I'd just like to give you a quick tour of the webinar console that you see on your screens today. So today's webinar, it's hosted on the On24 platform. And if you've got any questions as the presentation goes along, we'd love to hear them. So just put them in the chat feature to submit your query. A member of our team will follow up by the end of the week to make sure you've got the answers you need. There are some links on screen where you can learn more about Here Technologies and about partnering with Grey Matter, as well as a copy of the slides from today's presentation for you to keep. The contact information for the speakers today are on the screen for both myself and Andrea, and we'd also love to offer ourselves for a discovery call with you to see how we can support your needs in more detail. Now, today's webinar is going to give you direct insight into how Here We Go Pro powers fleet navigation, and you'll see some live demos. So please stick around for those, and also our Q&A session at the end with some of the frequently asked questions our clients are asking about the new service. So now, without further ado, Andrea, the floor is yours.
Hey, thank you, Shaun. So then, yes, today I'm here to talk to you about Here We Go Pro. So I will start to explain you what is WeGo Pro, what is the key value of it, and what are the benefits that you get by using WeGo Pro, and for both your fleet and your planning tools. And then after this, I will move on to a more detailed introduction covering really the features of the product, first by itself, and after that in connection with your planning system and also with other ER products. And after that, indeed, we will open it up for questions. So let me start then by explaining, so what is WeGo Pro? WeGo Pro is our navigation app for commercial fleets. This, as you can see in the title. And what is the important part of it? So what is the value of having a navigation app for commercial fleets? What do you gain by this? So the idea is that, if you own a fleet of trucks, you want to maximize the efficiency of your drivers. You want them to have reliable turn-by-turn navigation that works globally and supports the languages that they understand. As you can see, WeGo Pro supports turn-by-turn guidance in more than 40 languages. And it's been specifically designed for professional truck drivers. Because another important thing you need to keep in mind is, why do we care about truck navigation? Why is it even important? Because very bluntly, if you are driving a truck, you should not be using car navigation. It's not safe and you risk getting a fine. This is really the value of it. So, and I will explain this a bit further in the next slides. But fundamentally, the key point now is that for truck drivers, it is important to have truck-specific routes and route optimization. So again, to avoid getting a fine, make sure the navigation is safe, and also, of course, avoiding delays and making sure the deliveries are a success. So moving a bit further into really what is the value proposition of WeGo Pro, you can see that, the key, very first, most important item is safety. As I mentioned, if you have a truck, it's much bigger, right, than going around with a car. Everybody can understand that. So there are low bridges around, there are narrow roads, there are those are the kind of things that you don't want to find out accidentally right before hitting them. You want a navigation that gives you, that takes them into account and gives the proper route based on your vehicle dimensions. So you really want to keep your driver safe, and this WeGo Pro can help you with that. And then moving slightly down in the risk, there is still the fact that even if the truck is not going to crash a bridge, you still don't want to get a fine. There are many truck regulations around that determine where trucks are allowed to go, depending on the type of truck, the goods they're carrying, and so on. And this way, you want to make sure that you have proper legal compliance and that your routes are legal for the truck you're driving. And that's where also where WeGo Pro comes into play. And of course, once this is all sorted out, you want to make sure that the drivers arrive efficiently and on time. And for that, they need to have real-time traffic and also be aware of incidents, closures on the road, and this kind of things. And also, I mean, you know, maybe find an easy way to find a place where to take a break or refuel. On top of this, especially for WeGo Pro, it's important. This is so this is supposed to be a product easy to use, and this is one of our goals. So the goal here is that it's something that you will be able to quickly deploy to your fleet or offer to your customers, and the drivers can also easily use it, pick it up, configure what they need to do, and move, and you can easily deploy. And this is particularly important because at EF Technologies, we have a wide portfolio, and we offer many components that help you build applications, and also navigation apps for the drivers. But with WeGo Pro, we really have a turnkey solution that basically you license it and use it, no development effort needed. And that's why I'm emphasizing. And then moving back to more the value really for the fleet and the customer is really the visibility. This is a function. This is basically a value proposition that we started working on and is still currently in beta, but it's fundamentally the ability to know where your drivers are and if they are going to reach their destination according to the ETA, to really give you insights on what's happening. And this is fundamentally what the other use case that we are adding to WeGo Pro. And in the future, we will also further expand the ability to work, for example, with custom maps and private sites. So to recap a bit, what are the benefits of WeGo Pro if you are going, especially for the customer, looking both at fleet managers and drivers. So as a fleet manager, with this, it really helps you have cost-efficient, cost-effective, compliant routes. Also, the ability to transfer easily your plans to the navigation and make sure that the navigation is consistent with your plan. And of course, also to be able to have your preferences regarding in terms of route and so on reflected. And for the drivers, it's really about safety and great user experience with, of course, the up-to-date traffic. So it has to really be a companion that helps the driver do their job and doesn't get in the way. So after this lengthy introduction on the value, I hope you don't mean, most likely you're already familiar with the problems if you're watching this webinar, but this at least should give you the picture in case you are not. And now that you understand the context, let's move into really the introduction of what WeGo Pro is and what it offers. So WeGo Pro. So from WeGo Pro, we are talking about a mobile application, and this is mobile application for commercial fleets. And with this, we offer, like what I mentioned, we can offer track-specific and compliant navigation. We have the live tracking via GPS and the ability to import routes from the planning systems. We have, of course, live traffic updated every few minutes. And also, we have an easy ability to activate it and enable it for drivers, either via activation key, which is our preferred mode, or by email. And the app is supported in more than 40 languages for voice guidance. And our track navigation is supported in more than 70 countries across the world. So going a bit more into the detail of what really are the feature of capabilities of WeGo Pro. Let me show you maybe the last slide before I move into the demo. So this is a navigation app, and it's built on top of our consumer app. You will see it later. I'm going to demo it, but fundamentally, you saw the product name is WeGo Pro. So here WeGo Pro. Why the Pro part? Why do we call it Pro? Because we already have an application called here WeGo, And this is our free consumer app, targeted toward car navigation, public transport, and more other transport mode, let's say, for the normal citizen. But when we start talking about navigation for professional drivers, whether it's truck or later also other vans and other modes of transport for commercial use case, you need something more. And that's what we've started doing with WeGo Pro, where we have introduced now truck navigation as the first commercial edition. And over time, we're going to expand further and further to support more commercial use cases. So back to the features. So what did we add? We added the ability to see on the map the route restrictions that apply to the vehicle. And we are also switching to a logistic map layer scheme that emphasizes areas and PIs more relevant for truck drivers. We have the ability to set the truck parameters and preferences to basically tell the app how big is your truck, on what are fundamentally the physical characteristics of it that will be then used for the navigation. And we use this to calculate the most appropriate route. And then when we have these, we can, of course, we're going to show the information while you navigate, and with also warning regarding speed limits or upcoming restrictions and or warning signs. And last but not least, we have the ability to import a sequence of stops into the app for navigation, and also to open the app from navigation from another one with what is called deep linking. So to easily trigger navigation in WeGo with the press of a button from another app. But this is just an overview. You're going to see all of it in the demo. And this is actually what I plan to do now. I will now start showing you the demo. So let me switch to my phone. Sure. And what I'm going to show you is first a recap of the features that are part of our consumer app. And once those are clear, I'll move on to the commercial features and then the connection with other products. So I see you can see my phone now. So what you're looking at is the Here We Go application. Currently, I have not enabled any specific Pro feature, so you will not see anything special now, but you can see that the application is doing what you would expect a map application to do. Right? You can see the map, you can see POI. We do have our we have our 3D landmarks visible on the map. As you may be able to tell from here, I'm based in Berlin, so you can see here the Brandenburger Tor, for example. You can also use the app to search for restaurants, for example, or any category of POI. And you can see that we have rich POI information and data and images. And of course, we can give directions. So for example, car or public transport directions or pedestrians and so on. And we also have the ability to have offline maps. So the application works online and offline. So what we offer is the ability to download maps, for example. You can see I downloaded the Berlin region inside Germany. But you can download, of course, globally for some certain countries as a whole, and for other countries, you can download a smaller region, for example. And once you have the maps downloaded, this allows you to either go fully offline and use the application without using data and still being able to navigate and do search, or you can use it online as I'm doing now with the maps downloaded, which gives you all the power of online, but also lets you save data, which is basically then our recommended option. So as you see, this is the application. I have now showed you the basic functionality. Let me turn off, first of all, real-time traffic. This is also part of the consumer. And you can see that now we have indication on where the traffic is, if there is construction work, for example. We also have the ability to report if speed exists or is not there anymore. And this is basically all the functionality that comes with the free consumer app. Now, what happens after you have enabled WeGo Pro? What happens is that you are now able to see the track restrictions. And all right, this is an interesting thing. Maybe let me turn them off for a second. So I was telling before how different is the experience for a truck driver compared to a normal driver. And I've learned that Budapest is a good place to show that. What you can see here is how the map look like for, let's say, a normal non-commercial driver in Budapest. Good enough, beautiful city. There is, let me say nothing special at this level, but let's try to turn on the track restrictions. You can see that when you are a truck driver, the picture looks much different. There are a lot of restriction applying in the city: height restriction, weight restriction, time-based restrictions, delivery only areas. So it's a whole different experience. So if you don't have an app specialized for commercial vehicles, you will be in trouble if you try to go if you try to drive around Budapest. So coming back to Berlin, more familiar, what you can see is that the situation here is a bit less dramatic, but you can see there are still a lot of restrictions applying. And so I can see them on the map. I have the logistics map scheme, which is now tailored for the truck drivers. What else can I do? I can, for example, go to the settings, and I can configure my truck parameters. So I can choose the truck type. I can choose the dimensions. This was a bit too high. Let's go back to these. 20 ton maybe. I can configure my truck dimensions. If I'm carrying some hazardous materials or goods, I can also specify. And if you're European based, I can also pick the tunnel category. And those, as I mentioned, will influence the route. So how does this come into play? Let's say that I want to route to this place. You can see that if I calculate a regular car route, it's going to drive me through this part. There is a restriction of 3.8 meters along the way before I reach my destination. There's probably some pipe. This is quite typical in Berlin. How the route is going to look like once I switch to truck? You see that the route has changed significantly once I switch to truck, because my truck is too tall to pass through that. And so our routing has given now an alternative. Now, what if I instead, let me go back. What if I instead really had to do a delivery in the middle of this road? You can see now that, so what happens if I really need to get there and there's no way around? Well, the app is still giving you a route now, but is also informing you that there is something going on. So besides, there is some blocking on the road today. That's a special thing for today. But look at the first one. It's telling you that there are restrictions on the route and we couldn't find a way around. Then if you go and look at the route details, you can see that we give you more context on what was the restriction. And we also show you in which maneuver it is. In this case, of course, is at the end. That's what I picked. And what I can do is also, I can start the navigation with another reminder to make sure, again, that the driver is really aware of what is going on if they really decide to go for this one. We don't want to block them, preventing to do their job, but we also want to make sure they really understand. So you can see that now I start the navigation. Oh, I can see that there is a school zone warner. That's the thing we are actually just freshly added. You can see that the app is basically giving you some warnings related to the upcoming warning areas and signs. You can see your speed limit. You can also report if it's wrong. You can also, well, you can see your progress, the maneuvers, and the next steps. Those. And you can see you can also search for the most relevant things while you're navigating. So, for example, fuel station, truck parking, and so on. And you can also easily switch offline if you need to. Keep guidance. Now, what I also wanted to show is, let's see if during this demo, let me teleport a bit around and see if I can demo. This is a bit of a demo effect. What I want to show is that also as we get close to our destination, we are also going to get a warning for the upcoming restriction. Let's hopefully, the teleporting didn't affect it. You can see that we're about to hit our restriction and the driver is getting a warning before they reach it. Again, to make sure that they really understand and they stay safe. So this is the experience during the navigation. And what I want to show you then is that the driver is then able to also configure which kind of warnings they get. If I go to the settings, yeah, I can pick field type. All right, yeah. I can pick if I want to get alerts for speed limits, also with a sound or not. I can choose which road signs to get an alert for. And again, here I can also pick if I want an alert sound or not. And in addition, we also have vehicle like alerts specific to the vehicle restrictions. So those can also be turned on and off independently if some are not relevant for the driver. All right, we also have Android Auto and CarPlay integration. I didn't mention, forgot to mention that before. That's part of the consumer app. So what you've seen now is the general, let's say, the core functionality of the application. As a standalone, so you've seen me searching, proving the value of the track navigation and how the routing works. So now it's time to step up the demo and start moving a bit outside of the app, and things get even more interesting. So one question is, how do customers typically use WeGo Pro? So as of today, the main customers of WeGo Pro are using it in connection with their, let me say, fleet management system, where they use to plan the tours and the stops of the driver for the day. So how does the flow typically work? Is that the driver are using another app on the phone. Let me use this one, for example, download from the App Store. Typically, the driver is using another app on their phone. Let's do this one. And in this application, they have the list of stops that they are supposed to do, coming from their transport management system, for example, already in order. And see, by tapping on one of them, they can get a bit more information. Maybe they can do proof of delivery and so on. So this app is talking already with their fleet management system. But then when it's time to go and navigate, they have the app. This gives an overview. But as I mentioned, when it's time to navigate, they tap Start Navigation, and the navigation app opens, like WeGo Pro. And what you've seen me doing here is opening a track route to a certain destination. And we told the app to show you the preview first. But of course, we also have the option to open it directly into navigation. So those are both, those options are both valid. And this is the most common use case scenario today with WeGo Pro, where there is another app on the side doing this proof of delivery and list of jobs. And then with WeGo Pro, you started the navigation. Now, outside of this app, so this started opening a discussion of how does, like, okay, how else, what else can I get on top of WeGo Pro or in connection with my planning system? So what can I do? And for this, I need to now switch my presentation, and I need to start sharing my whole screen. So give me a second to show you that. What I want to show, give me a second. Okay, so showing one thing at a time. So you saw me opening WeGo Pro from another app. We also have other option, for example, where you could do it with a QR code, scanning a QR code. So let me use our WeGo Beta website on the web. And you can see here, we also, all right, see, before I just do this, since I'm logged in with my user, which I have enabled for WeGo Pro, I am able to see the track functionality. And so I have a similar screen where I can set my track settings. And let's say that, let's make maybe my track, just for the sake of demoing, let's make this vehicle a bit wider. And I can calculate a route to that. Now what I can do is I can share this, and it's generating a QR code. And now back to my phone, you can see that if I scan this QR code, opening WeGo, a new dialog has opened, and this is telling me, do you want to import these track parameters for your route? So those are the parameters that I have set before. You can see, basically, I can accept, and it's going to give me a route to the place that I picked before. So what has happened here? Behind that QR code, there is fundamentally another link that says Open WeGo Pro give to calculate a route to a certain destination. But on top of that, use those specific track parameters to calculate the route. And those are the ones that I imported. And this is an option that can also be used from another app. So if you have a mobile application that knows the track dimensions, you can pass them together with the destination when you open WeGo Pro. And this is lovely, but we can do more. So here you saw me doing it with just one stops, but we don't need to stop there. So what are we looking at here now? What you see now on my screen is the demo website of Year Tour Planning API. So what does the Year Tour Planning API do? This is an API specifically tailored for the last mile use case, and it answers one question. If I have a fleet of certain amount of vehicles and a lot of deliveries that I need to do tomorrow, each of them with a specific, constraints in terms of time windows, skills, and whatnot, what is the best, which truck should deliver what and in which order? This is really the simplest way I can describe it. And when you have a few, you can do it by hand, but when you have a lot, imagine 100 trucks and 1,000 of deliveries, yeah, you're not going to get a good result unless you use some optimization behind it. And this is what the API does. So for purposes of demo, let's pretend that I have a small fleet of 5 trucks, and each of them can deliver till 10 things in a day. And let's assume that tomorrow, those are the deliveries I need to do across Berlin. So we have a bunch now. So what we can do is that we can call the Tour Planning API. This is running for real. And it has now calculated the optimized sequence of stops for each vehicle. You can see that based on the orders, we needed all 5 of our trucks. And you can see here that it created a few tours across the city. One there, where is this one? So what we can do now is, let's pick, for example, this one. I can see more details of the tour, and this is the plan. It's taking into account also which time I'm going to arrive where. And now what can I do? I can create another QR code, so you know what's going to happen now. I'm going to scan again another QR code. And you can see that the application has imported now a sequence of stops into the app. You can also reshuffle them a bit if I want to. And then I can, of course, again, start it for navigation. So you saw before I opened only one, and now I'm opening a few. And I can see here the list of stops that I need to drive through. Here the list, and if I want to, I can also skip one and go to the next. So as you can see, with these, we start getting more into the power. So WeGo Pro is doing the navigation, and now Tour Planning is doing the optimization. Now, a question some of you might have is, oh, that looks so good. So can I already push directly a plan from my planning system to WeGo Pro instead of scanning QR codes? And the short answer is no, not yet. Today, you have to go through a mobile app like I demoed before, or you need to scan a QR code. But of course, this is an important requirement that we already identified in many customer conversations. So it's something we want to bring really soon in the next months, so that the customer will later be able to really push their sequence of stops to WeGo Pro without scanning codes or relying on another app. So this is one of the things, for example, we want to do to further support really this last mile scenario use case and better integration with the transport management systems. Now, if you want to take it even a step further, so you saw me talking first about the navigation, then I connected it to the planning before. Now let me do another step. Let's see if it's gonna work nicely. Let me sign in with a different account in the app, and you can see that something has slightly changed here. Now I'm logged in with driver 10, and you see that there is a little blue icon under the name. this is telling me that my company can see my progress. So what's happening is that this user has the live tracking feature activated. And that means that the application now is sending home information about where the driver is and what are the next stops on the route and the ETA to those stops. Now, in the app, you will not really see more than that. But what is happening, again, is that now the app is sending this information back to our servers. And there is the option to get this data directly, or is it possible to use this in combination with our real tracking product that lets you also record the history or trigger events based on geofences and utilization. So you can see here, this is a trace from back in July, where you can see this is basically where this driver went. And you can see that there are also some events, certain positions, and so on. And this is basically the power that you get when you connect an WeGo Pro to tracking. And what I mentioned before is that, of course, this is the overview. You also can set up rules, for example, to trigger events, when the vehicle is moving or if it's staying inside a geozone. And that's, for example, also I have set a geozone around the ER office in Berlin. So this is also a demo UI, but and it shows you, for example, that we have a lot of test devices spread across the world. So where I'm going with all of these is that you see that there is really multitude, like you start with WeGo Pro and the navigation, but then the more you connect it to, the more your product you use and the more you connect it with others, the more value you use. And we are working on to making the connection even more seamless over time. And I think I will skip now all the slides in between, which are a good sum. Well, let me maybe quickly go through. Let me quickly go through them so you can we can see if I missed anything. But you basically got now an overview of WeGo Pro. Of course, there is the map feedback reporting, which I mentioned before. We can activate it with a key, which I didn't demo. Tracking was part of the demo. The hazmats and so on. Track parking search. And of course, additional feature like iPad support, and we show rest areas on the highways and so on. So maybe to, again, briefly mention a bit of the use cases. So you see, focus of WeGo Pro today is the track navigation, work online and offline, and we can, of course, you can use it to geocode and search. And we have the ability to import stops either as a single destination or as a sequence. But where we are adding as a product is to further and further connect it with, for example, the fleet management systems our customer use, and also with tour planning API and air tracking to really offer a more end-to-end coherent experience, all being powered by ear. And I think before maybe moving to the question, so just a bit of highlight on, okay, if you're thinking this is all great, but how do we use it and how do we get started? The idea is that, of course, if you have interest in WeGo Pro, you could get a live demo, and then you can also get an evaluation period together with the Gray Matter, and they can help you with that. And once you're satisfied, you can accept the quote, and then we can enable WeGo Pro for you. And as mentioned, we can, until very recently, we were creating activation keys for our customers, but we have now enabled an API that customer can do so by themselves. And of course, we can also activate and give access by email. And then fundamentally, it's really simple. At the end, what you need to do is get the application on the driver's phone, either by the driver installing it themselves or pushing it through a mobile device management software. Activate the application, which is either scanning a QR code or tapping a link, or doing it again via the mobile device management solution. And then the only thing remaining is configuring the track parameters to make sure that they fit the vehicle the driver is using, and off you go. That is really all that is needed. And I think that covers it. So, I mean, as I mentioned here, if you're interested, contact your representative. In this case, please referring, of course, to Grey Matter, and you can download the consumer app to already try the feature, the consumer features, and then we can enable for you the professional ones. And I think this covers all the main functionality. So I hope you get a good understanding of the product. I hope that the value is clear, and well, looking forward to get more evaluation and more customers. So, and yeah, if you have questions, please get in touch.
Thank you, Andrea. That was really comprehensive and very insightful. Very good to learn about this solution. It really shows how the truck restrictions that here has and the speed limits available, they can just be shown on the driver's devices without developing a custom solution. And it really does help with compliance, driver safety, and driver happiness. Some of the key things that we've been talking about recently in terms of last mile delivery and creating a good last mile setup. So yeah, very happy with what you've shown. I've just got a couple of quick questions that some of our customers are asking. So you mentioned that you're going to develop a new solution that replaces the QR code sharing. So a lot of our users are creating, they've got the waypoint sequencing or the tour planning or just normal here truck routing APIs. What will be the output? Will it be a JSON or just the actual API output? Will that go straight to Here We Go Pro in the new version?
We plan to introduce an API where the customers will be able to push the sequence of stops. So the idea is that our customer would then be using tour planning API or waypoint sequence, let me say, to reshuffle the stops. And once they've determined a new sequence, there will be an API that lets them push this and send it to the app.
Fantastic. Yeah, so they'll have the list of waypoints that they've already optimized for that day based on the traffic and the company needs, and then they'll just be able to pull those straight in. That's really fantastic. So going to look forward to that update being released soon. Another key thing is going to be hardware capabilities. I think you mentioned there iPads. We've got customers that will have fleet collections of Android tablets and stuff like that. So how do they find out if their devices are going to be compatible? Is it an evaluation, or do you have a hardware requirements page, please?
So we have both. We do have in our documentation, which was in the links shared, there are our hardware requirements in terms of both hardware and operating system version. In general, the key point I want to emphasize is that until recently, the focus for WeGo has been on mobile phones more than tablets. What does it mean? It runs on tablets, both iPad and Android, but we have not necessarily optimized the UI for that. What do I mean? Maybe do we need to make some element a bit bigger or some test a bit bigger and so on? This is the kind of optimization we still need to do. So for this, I do recommend check the requirements and really install the Here We Go app on your phone to make sure that it's working well with your tablets, and then send us your feedback. And
that sounds
in the
great.
meantime, we're going to do, we're going to work on improvements. For example, one thing we want to explore in the next month is maybe the font size when you use WeGo on a bigger tablet. That's some feedback we received recently, and we want to look into it.
Excellent. There's nothing better than road testing, quite literally, to improve things. How long is the evaluation period, Andrea?
We support, let's say, 1 to 3 months. We support up to 3, aligned with the year policies. But honestly, it's a navigation app. I recommend 1 month. It should typically be enough to get a good picture of whether you want to continue or not.
Thank you. We can certainly support people interested in an evaluation. Excellent. Well, that's covered our questions for today. As we remind you at the beginning of the webinar today, please type in your questions for Andrea and myself, and we will get back to you. I'm sure there'll be more queries as you go through it. And of course, do feel free to book a call in with us if you need to go through that. So thank you again. I'd like to thank you again, Andrea, for attending today and the wonderful demo and presentation. Much appreciated. And to your wider team at Here Technologies, our contact information is on the screen. As I say, if you want to email or call in, always happy to chat. And if you have any queries, you can always email us here at greymatter.com and just book a call in with our experts. And also, quick reminder, we did recently publish our latest podcast discussing the Last Mile Challenge. Does cover some of these topics that we covered today. The link is available on the screen. Please check out that in the related content section of the console in front of you. Fantastic. So thanks again, everybody, for attending, and enjoy the rest of your day.